My name is Robbie Book, and I am a trustee of the Club Cricket Charity. We are responsible, among other things, for the supply of portable defibrillators to cricket clubs throughout England and Wales. Through our partnership with the ECB and our relationship with the Community Heartbeat Trust, we are able to provide this service at a huge discount. This podcast is to ensure that club chairmen, safeguarding officers and committee members understand the importance of having a defibrillator on site at your club so that you can save lives. It's about 10 minutes long and helps you by explaining what this can mean for your club and its place in your community. As a cricket club, you have a duty of care to your members, players, umpires and spectators. You need to be aware of what needs to be done. You need to be confident that you can perform the simple tasks which will save a life. My colleague Martin Fagan, Secretary of the Trust, will give details of what this vital piece of equipment does and where it fits into the life-saving 5-part survival chain in the event of cardiac arrest at your club. At the end, I'll provide you with the details of our scheme and who you should contact. In an abstract from an interview with Community Radio, Martin starts with an explanation of just what a defibrillator is.
What is a defibrillator, Martin?
Well, I think the easiest way to understand what a defibrillator is, because it's a magic word, a defibrillator. So it obviously somethings, and that something is the fibrillation. So what does fibrillation mean? If you say that to people, they look at you with glassy eyes. Well, you got to understand how the heart works. So the heart is a muscle, and it's a very special muscle. It's the only muscle in your body that never gets tired. Every other muscle you use in your body, if you stretch out your arm and back again, or you run down the road, your muscles get tired, and they get tired because of build-up of lactic acid. Now, your heart is just sort of squeezing, contracting, relaxing, contracting, relaxing, contracting, relaxing, roughly once a second at rest, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, 80 plus years. But it doesn't get tired. It's the only muscle in the body that doesn't get tired. You could imagine a situation if it did get tired and it says, okay, I'm just going to take 5 minutes off and go and have a cup of tea. It would be a rather drastic thing to happen. Absolutely. So your heart contracts, but the muscle cells there can't get tired. So while it's contracting normally and it squeezes, because it's hollow, it pumps blood and oxygen around the body. And that's fine as long as it's actually squeezing in a nice regular way. But occasionally it starts squeezing in a slightly different irregular way. So instead of actually a nice consistent whoosh coming out of the heart, you've got it sort of shaking like a jelly. And if it's shaking like a jelly, it means you haven't really got any blood and oxygen coming out of the heart and being passed around the body. Now, that shaking like a jelly has a term called fibrillation. Okay. And whilst the heart is in fibrillation and it's not pumping blood and oxygen around the body, then obviously that's not really a good position to be in, because obviously the vital parts of your body, like your brain and elsewhere, do not get that oxygen. And if you don't get that oxygen, you die. Yeah. So from the time the heart goes from working normally to the time it's completely stopped and it doesn't move, it doesn't shake, doesn't do anything, there is a period when that heart has gone from normal beating to shaking like a jelly to doing nothing. So during that period of shaking like a jelly called fibrillation, you can do something to try and correct and bring the heart back to working normally. And that's where a defibrillator comes in. It stops fibrillation.
Okay. And I think most people probably will be aware of these from watching dramatic TV medical shows and seeing people grabbing 2 bits of metal and pumping somebody on the chest and them flying dramatically into the air as they've just been hit with 1,000 volts or whatever it is of electricity to stop that shake and jelly from happening. That's pretty much how it is, but it isn't, is it?
It's not as dramatic as you see on Casualty and other programs on telly. Those are done for drama. It's to create entertainment. The reality, unfortunately, is a little bit less dramatic. So nowadays you would use what's called an automatic external defibrillator, so AED, and that is different from something that is an implantable defibrillator called an ICD. So an AED, an external defibrillator, which is what most people shows a concept for a defibrillator. It's a little box and has a couple of wires coming out of it, and on the end of it, 2 little electrodes. You stick those electrodes on the chest, either side of the heart, and it will fire a bolt of electricity between the electrodes and ideally through the heart. And it's like sort of rebooting your computer. So you're grabbing hold of this heart and slapping it around the chops and saying, "Behave yourself. You've got to start working properly." And that's really what a defibrillator is doing. But they are actually fairly undramatic things in many respects. You stick these electrodes on and you stand back and press the button, and somebody might shake a little bit, and then hopefully things go back to normal. It's not quite the same as casualty where they're sort of hanging off the ceiling afterwards.
Yeah, it still seemed a little complicated and certainly a bit scary to operate. But I understand that they're actually not like that at all either.
Certainly not modern defibrillators. So any of the modern ones tend to have things like visual displays, television screens on them, and so they don't just talk to you as the older ones do, but the new ones will actually show you pictures. And so it's really a matter of just follow the picture, do what it says on the screen, and the pictures are valuable because it's not only showing you what to do, but if you're in a panicky situation, there's a stress going on, there's lots of noise around you because everybody else is panicking around you, you're not listening. You want to focus on what's going on. So the screen really does help you focus. Plus, of course, if you've got a hard of hearing or you don't speak English or you're a child helping in the rescue, those pictures really help. So modern defibrillators with pictures on them and animations on them really do make it a very simple process for people to follow through. And the other important thing to remember, which is really critical in this whole thing, is you can never make the situation worse. You can only ever make the situation better. Now, you mentioned Christian Eriksen a little earlier on. And if you go through exactly what happened to him, okay, so he was running along and he fell flat on his face. What did his teammates do? The very first thing they did was to recognize that he had a problem. And they recognized that he was probably in cardiac arrest. So number one important thing is to make sure people recognize that somebody needs help. Number two is you call for help. So if you're out in the community, you call 999 and ask the ambulance service. But if you're on your own, call for help. Get somebody to come and help you. That's number two. Number three, you would start those chest compressions. Now, if you think about what's happening, fibrillation, the heart's quivering like a jelly. It's not pumping anything out. You need to get this blood and oxygen moving around the body again to keep that person alive. And not just to keep that person alive, but you also want to get oxygen coming to the heart muscles themselves. So you take over the beating of that heart by pressing the person's chest. Number four is you use the defibrillator to try and get the heart working properly again, and then you get them off to hospital. So if you think about what happened in the Christian Eriksen incident, that's exactly what happened. His colleagues recognized it, they called for help. His colleagues, his other players started those chest compressions, and somebody brought a defibrillator onto the field of play to use on him. And that process, those 5 steps, the recognition, the call for help, the chest compressions, the defibrillator, and then sending them off to hospital, those 5 steps are called the chain of survival. And it's the chain of survival that saves people's lives. The defibrillator is just one part of that. And that's an important thing for people to remember. The defibrillator is a tool. Okay, it's nothing to be frightened of. It's a tool. So all you do is you follow that process through, and the defibrillator is there, and the modern one's designed to help you go through that stage 4 and help in the rescue and help save that life.
Yeah. But I guess the simple fact is that if you take that defibrillator out of the equation, it becomes, if you look at the odds, if you like, of survival, they are significantly reduced, aren't they, without the presence of a defibrillator?
Absolutely, because you're missing out an essential part of the jigsaw.
Yeah.
Your sequence of steps are those chain of survival. If you take one of those links out of the chain, you haven't got a chain anymore.
Yeah.
So the defibrillator is absolutely critical in that, but it is one of the links in the chain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you know what a defibrillator is and what it does. You know that you only have 5 minutes to potentially save a life. You now know that your duty of care extends to ensuring you have both awareness training in CPR and easy access to a portable defibrillator. In practical terms, what is your next step? First, check the market on your search engine for the cost of purchase of portable defibrillators. Add in the costs of training at your club for as many people as you like. Add in the costs of insurance against theft, breakage, and vicarious liability. And add in the cost of post-stress counselling for any participants in a rescue exercise. Then compare your total to our offer for all of this for £600 plus an annual fee for required replacement parts of £151.20. So a total outlay of £751.50. We believe that it's the best deal in sport in England and Wales, but do check it out for yourselves. This offer is only open to bona fide cricket clubs in England and Wales. Please contact me at robbie.book@theclubcricketcharity.org or donna.black@club-cricket.co.uk or telephone me on 0781 381 3908. Stay safe.